when you can observe what you need to solve from the energetic aspects, you can really reverse engineer what your identity issues are. And then you can be honest with yourself. And then once you can start to rewrite the lies and actually start consistently, repetitively telling you the truth, you can really start to understand the simplicity of the structures you get to put in place for your cells to be fucking happy.
Pull up a chair, set the world aside. Let's find the truth we keep trying to hide.
Welcome to Across the Table. I am your host, James Finochio, and today we have Kyle Trautmann from High Vibe Holonomics back with us for our final part of this series. And well, hi, Kyle.
What's going on, man? Thank you again. Here
Yeah,
we are,
thank
round
you.
3.
It's a balmy 46 here in Altoona today, so, or no, it was
Nice.
48 when I came in from the truck. Are you guys
There it
freezing
is.
out there still, or what?
I mean, I don't even know, man. I think it's somewhere around the same thing, bro.
Really?
I think once you live in a place like this over a certain amount of time, you start to realize that you're like, I'm just gonna roll with whatever is, and just dress appropriately. But yeah, I don't really pay too much attention to the weather unless it's like balls freezing. Yeah,
Yes.
that's a different story. Yeah, that's something
You
else.
guys are balls freezing all the time.
A lot of times, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm not moving to Minnesota. I'd freeze my little ass off. I don't have enough insulation on my stupid body.
That's fair, man. That's fair.
You
You
know,
gotta be a little psycho to be in the north part of the country.
yeah, I
I
think
think so.
you. Yeah, you got a little Canadian in you. But after our first two conversations, and we had those back-to-back episodes, and then so what do you think the through line is there, and what else? What do you want people to really derive from our conversations?
Yeah, great setup too, because if we look at the totality of experience and the totality of experience, what is fundamental is consciousness, and what's the precursor to that is energy. So if you master your energy, right, obviously we teach that within that notion of energy literacy. If you are fully in that know of what that is, I think you have an amazing experience, and this just comes from all walks of life, whether you're, a recovering addict, whether you have recovered, whether you're sick, whether you're just a knowledge person, whether you're one of those high performers. I think however you classify and categorize, because we did a great job kind of canvassing like a preview to what we do here on the first call, and then we had a little bit more free-spirited aspects on the second call. I think the solutions and just really the answers are one and the same. Can you understand how to properly appropriate yourself for the most energy potential that you have, so you can have an awesome life while you're here? Because as we know, our identity as such, this vessel as such, this is the one that we got, right? That's it. So, and it's gonna take an exorbitant amount of just energy, knowledge to be able to produce at your best and to be the best, to care the best, to love the best. So I think the more energy literate you are and the solutions that you have, and you can stack those up and compound that like interest, you're going to have a great experience just sharing stories and just being with people.
So, where do you begin at? I suppose for me, that's the biggest question. Like I'm getting all this, there's a lot of great information, but how do you start?
That's a perfect starting question, because I just got off a podcast with a longevity doctor, and not to say anything bad about the dude, but usually higher performers have a little bit more ego because they're more knowledge based, and he said a lot of the stuff that I was saying was absurd, and I was like, yeah, or abstract, and I was like, I get that, because there has to be a cohesive like chain of events for things to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But where I start is just literally the observational organization. We kind of alluded to that a little bit off camera, but what is it that you need to know, right? So if knowledge is the precursor to experience, what do you need to know? And if energy is the precursor to the fundamental aspect of your consciousness, we need to just observe at where energy starts, right? And this is where you get into quantum physics with, the atomic and subatomic levels. You get into more of the cellular biology with the cell, the organelles, and also the molecular structures. If you understand how those move energetically, you're not going to be sick. You're not going to be in a disease state. And disease state, as you know, is just something where you don't feel at ease. You don't feel peaceful, right? And I kind of go off the Richter sometimes when I talk about this, but peace essentially is just called the cell membrane potential. The cell membrane potential, when it's at a solid polarization, right, when it's just stable and it's just nice and calm, that's where we want to be. And then obviously you can see a lot of energetic metrics and just spiritual teachings and just also energetic teaching, that the higher you get from your vibration or your oscillation, the frequency state that you have, you're generally more calm and peaceful. Therefore, you can receive the world, you can pivot and adapt to the world. So I believe when
Rather than
we
reacting
start
to it.
100%. Yeah,
Okay.
because if you have a very highly um the best way I could say very highly perturbed cellular structure, you're usually in some state of fear. We call it lower density states. And when that happens, that's just how the world is going to be received by you, right? And the polarization in that is that obviously if you're calm, peaceful, your sense of wholeness, you're liberated from the constraints that you have, then you get to receive the world in direct proportion to that too. So I think understanding what energy is from those observations and then truly looking at your identity, looking at the bioenergetic soundtrack of your life. What emotions are running the show? Why are they even running the show? And then also, what lies are you telling yourself? Because a bunch of shit you got accumulated with throughout life now is your present state because you haven't done anything about it, right? And then you revert back to something that is a maladaptive coping mechanism that just plays to more, malfunction within the cell membrane. And the cell itself literally is just the self, right? If you think about it in that analogy, the cell is the self, right? So the accumulation of cells that we have, if they're not properly firing, right? If they're not properly communicating to each other, you're gonna tend to be a little bit more miserable, bitter, apprehensive to the world, contracted, and I think it sounds like super sexy and romantic the way I say it sometimes, but when you can observe what you need to solve from the energetic aspects, you can really reverse engineer what your identity issues are, and then you can be honest with yourself. And then once you can start to rewrite the lies and actually start consistently, repetitively telling you the truth, you can really start to understand the simplicity of the structures you get to put in place for your cells to be fucking happy. And it's really not that hard. It is a challenge up front, but it's really not that hard once it becomes automatic.
No, it's interesting to me that I heard it put this way was that the inner voice that you hear talking to you, although it sounds like an adult, is generally a young child who is probably figuring out how to be accepted or something like that. That
Yeah.
it's that hurt young child's voice that's actually coming through and not yours. Is that, do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, on the subjective side of things, like especially since we compartmentalize most of our awareness, in the back end, the tapestries of our gray mind, there are those different variations that are trying to get our attention. So whatever they needed to be expressed, literally get that opportunity. And that, in its essence, is Carl Jung's shadow work, right? We do a variation of that within our clearings, our two density clearings. It's just giving the unheard, unexpressed versions of yourself, because whatever's not expressed is going to find a way to express itself internally, right? And that's where people can get lost up in those voices. But I totally agree. Yeah, I feel the younger, past different variations of you just waiting to have a voice.
And it was weird too. I also heard the identity expressed as mirrors. Like they're all fake. It's all what we want. Have you ever heard of what was it? Sautry's Hell? Yeah. Yeah. And I'm trying to, I don't know if you could do it better because I just learned it, but do you know it? You know it off cuff?
Not off cuff. No, no,
Okay.
no, no.
Is that we if you're put in a room with a bunch of people, we're going to keep looking for them to validate who or what we need versus, and even though you can leave because you're not
Yeah.
getting what you want, but you'll still keep trying to validate yourself over and over again in the faces or in the mirrors of other people.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And especially if you look at it from outside of either spiritual context or concepts, just even cognitively, that's, confirmation bias, where it's like there's this radical need for inclusivity over from just the society aspect of observation. And that's just a part of one of our driving factors. And in a lot of high performance and stuff like that. They call them upstream drivers.
Mhm.
Like, what are these things that can be so close to a universal truth that we can start to build out foundations for more truths? And that's what confirmation bias is. It's like this weird mirroring effect, obviously not just mirror neurons, but this mirroring effect of correspondence, whatever's happening and whatever hasn't been expressed, whatever hasn't been truly felt through, whatever hasn't been accepted, you're looking outwards for that to be confirmed specifically from the people that are in your environment. This is when we do a lot of flow setups for people who have a lot of output that they need to do. We set them up with the environment that's conducive for their mental state. Because if you just have a bunch of stuff in your environment, people, stuff, clutter, whatever, it's just like you're going to constantly look outside to remind yourself of why you're disorganized inside. It's just like being incoherent. It's pretty. The wild fascination and the paradox of life is that it is really simple, but it is unbelievably complex on how we process information. And the more that you can understand the concepts that help you as an upstream driver closer to those foundational truths, you can build on first principles and really, you know, um, accentuate yourself to have the best experience that you can.
So where do you start? Like when you excuse me, excuse me. Um, like when someone comes in to you for the first time, what is it that you do with them in order to figure out like protocols, things like that?
Yeah, the best thing is circuitry is very universal. It's different from distortion, and distortion usually comes from experience. So when people come in, we do a process called energy diagnostics. So we just really have to see what is the bioenergetic soundtrack of your life. Like, what are the identity markers? What are the core beliefs that are precursor to your behavior? And then also just do an assessment of what have you been consuming? Like, have you been drinking? Have you been going through, processed food? Like, the body does a beautiful thing once it's reorchestrated into coherence. Everything just kind of aligns, and that's when we get into biological laws like emergence. So for me, when they come in for those diagnostics, I really just teach them simple techniques so they can dialogue and interface with their nervous system so I can get the truth. Because I'm taught as a practitioner and also in my graduate training, specifically going through flow in neuroscience, is to not trust the personality, is to trust the biology. So when we can go to the biology first, we can go to the nervous system first. Nervous system within a seventh to tenth of a second can tell us the truth if we answer it or give it the right questions. So we just see what we have to work on, what we have to do underneath the hood, and that's our subconscious dynamics. And we'll kind of go through a variation of this at the end of this call, so you can kind of get a taste, a little amuse bouche, if you will. But also that's the biggest thing, so I can see canvas what needs to be done, and then I give them a quote unquote bio plan just stands for perseverance, leverage, assignment, and nurturement. Like, what do you have to do to just implement, and here's a structure, right? We want to keep the protocol super simple because there's so much fucking information in the world. But flow for post-traumatic growth within subconscious dynamics is dealing with those identity markers. So if people, for instance, I had a lady reach out to me who was like, "Gotta work with you this morning." Woke up, beautiful message. And I was like, "Here we go. Here's the process. You come in. I'll just give you the diagnostics and then we'll sort this out." I'll take care of the front end doing the facilitation, and then you just got to implement the plan, and your body will reorient itself. And then we teach the metrics of how it does it, right? And how much time it usually takes for your neurochemistry to readapt to a new baseline. And it does take on average like 6 months. I think we alluded to that in the first call. But if people are a little bit more damaged in the nervous system, it can take longer.
How much does because I had a chat with Emily last week, Emily Harrison, I guess you know,
Okay,
and she was talking about alchemy, how our bodies perform alchemy all the time just by
true.
what we eat and drink. So
Hmm.
like how much does that play a role in how we think and how we feel and how it affects our nervous system?
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing that I've always been fascinated just about health and just the human experience is that your consumption is creating networks of understanding, right? So those networks are creating neuropeptides, and those neuropeptides are actually in the form of emotions because usually you're going to get an emotion or a sensation based off of said consumption, whether that is sensory in any component, and they start to just derive little pockets in your brain. It's the reason why you know what a Kit Kat tastes like. You know what I mean? Like there's certain components to that. So now when you get a little too indulgent, specifically on one thing, this is where we quote unquote call things addiction, right? Or lack of self control, which is a better way of how I like to teach people. You know that notion.
Mm,
And for how I see it, the body is attuned to specific circuits for the cell membrane potential because there needs to be enough electricity for cells to efficiently communicate. So if you eat a bunch of shitty food, the polarization of your cells, because it's usually negative inside the cell, outside is positive. Inside is potassium, outside is sodium, and those are the two pumps that help create the balance between our energy reserves and literally how much we produce ATP. Like, to think of that pump is conserving, or not conserving, it's literally chewing through a third of our resting energy. Like, think of that. Like, that's insane. So a third of the energy that we chew through when we're just resting, we're not actually doing much action, is being chewed up by a specific pump that is our cells. So now imagine if you just fuel it with a bunch of garbage. Yes, it will transmute it because our bodies are brilliant, but I guarantee you're not going to have the energy that you want. You may have a spike real quick, but that's not true energy, right? That's when we're playing into signaling molecules like insulin, stuff like that. So the body is genius, and there is a lot of people, from the New Thought movement, from the early hundreds to about the 60s, that were like, we can transmute anything that we consume. I'm like, yeah, I respect it. You probably could, but we live in way too of a toxic environment now for that shit to happen.
yeah.
Like the chemicals we have in comparison, just in the atmosphere and our soil and our water, we just don't have that luxury anymore. So it's like, that's why I think health is so subjective and everybody's got opinions on it, but very people have receipts to prove those opinions. But the body does a great job really just transmuting and alchemizing anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. I've just been discovering about how much crap is in everything that we use, like
Everything.
cleaning
Yeah.
chemicals, our water, the soil, and then of
Hmm.
course, whatever's grown in the soil. 'Cause there's high aluminum content from whatever crap they're putting in these chemtrails, which
Hmm.
they actually admitted to. So it's like,
Yeah.
how do we protect ourselves and all the petroleum and like just stuff that's no good for you? I don't understand why they do it, but
Well, it's wild, and I'd love to share a little story on this too, because I'm helping out my parents downsizing. Because I do, like, I would say about 25% of my time is kind of like an on-call caregiver, just because I don't live too far from them for that reason. And I was going through some paperwork, surprisingly found this, but we found like the dental insurance and kind of the receipt specifically when I got put amalgams in my mouth right when I turned 13. And literally, and I can't, don't quote me on this, but sometime between the 20s and 30s, they outlawed the use of mercury being put in top hats because it was making people fucking crazy.
yeah, Mad Hatter.
And they still put that shit in people's mouths. So that time from when I was 13 to 33, when I got them removed, my whole being felt like I was constantly idling at 85 miles per hour. Because I just had this shit just jacked up in literally mercury, the second known toxin, out of the metal components in the world, is
Mm.
just literally a few inches from your brain. Like, it's wild, bro. It's wild. And the first reaction to most of this shit is pure rage from people because we're just not taught this stuff and we're not meant to know this until we become our own inner authorities. It's wild. But yeah, once I got those out of my mouth 2.5 years ago, my whole fucking life changed. Like everything became open, clear. My vision, my dreams are like bananas. I'm like surfing like Mad Max type of shit all over. I'm like, dude, it's a fun time. I have sometimes more fun in my dreams than I do in this in this dimension. So I'll just be honest on that. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's interesting that you mentioned that with the dreams. Like, how much does doing the work that you do affect your dreams?
It's so we're working on getting some instrumental tools. We've had a few people actually use some measurement tools to see what their brainwave states are at, and
Mm.
we've successfully gotten a few people in delta state where your body is just asleep and your brain is just reconsolidating. And that beautiful process of the window of reconsolidation, that's really what sleep does. Not only the lymphatics is cleaning out the brain, but there is a lot of consolidation happening from what you're learning and also from what you're synaptically pruning. So, literally, synaptically pruning is just what you're unlearning because you're literally learning while you're unlearning simultaneously. So, while you're dreaming and you're just in that space, because I firmly believe from what we teach on a holographic depiction, I firmly believe death dreams, literally in those hallucinations from high psychedelics, they're all the same fucking thing because I've just been through so many experiences. So when I dream, I'm like, well, what do I have to take a crazy amount of substances to get that type of experience? Because my background noise is just now consolidating, so I have more cognitive bandwidth. And right now, cognitive bandwidth is just, it's gold. Right? It's just gold. The more you can focus and the more you can be attentive to things, the more loving your relationships are. It's just a gold. And that's why I think this work is so important because it clears all the debris from the back end so you have more focal point and you have the more ability for your training to be more focused. And dude, there's nothing like somebody being present with you. Like there's just something magnetizing about that experience where it's like, wow, somebody's actually listening. Somebody's not on their phone. Somebody's not like droning off. Somebody's not daydreaming while you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's really imperative. So I believe the work that we're doing is help clearing out those neural networks so there's liberated energy for new experiences to happen. And what I'm finding, obviously, through the cell membrane potential and also consistently doing my graduate work for flow research is going through this process of how much energy it takes to just potentiate the synapse for you actually learning. It takes an exorbitant amount of energy for you to learn. So the more the more that we unlearn, the more energy we have to learn the better things for us so we can be better for other people, right? So I think it's paramount. And I just believe finding, developing, building, and practicing, our techniques within subconscious dynamics is just giving people a way where they don't have to use an outer resource. It's all endogenous. It's really, really simple.
You brought up. I don't know whether you used the word neural pruning or not, or was it synapses pruning?
Synaptic pruning, yeah.
Synaptic pruning. They're the same thing.
Essentially, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, very close. Yep.
I'm just learning about that. Can you explain it to the audience?
Yeah. So this is if you ever see the neural conjuncts, and the best way I could say this because I use neuroscience terms all the time, so I'm going to try to keep it elementary as possible. But when you're learning new things, these neurons are firing together. This is what Hebbian learning is called: neurons that fire together, wire together. And under microscopy, you can see them. They're like little tentacles, like almost like little venom, symbiotes just connecting to each other. Now, when you unlearn a process by not paying attention to it or going through a process like ours, like window of reconsolidation, those sever, right? And that opening gives you more bandwidth for you to actually accentuate what you want to do, learn, and then the process recycles itself. Then whatever you focus on consistently, you start to receive. Because a lot of people don't realize your brain is a neural net. So it's receiving information from the world. So if you have a bunch of gunked up shit in there, that's exactly how you're going to receive the world. But once those are pruned and you have more pronounced, and I would say character and principle and action valued based network, you're going to receive more of those opportunities. Like, and that's what's really fascinating about dancing between neuroscience and physics, especially quantum physics, because the energy isn't just this woo-woo shit. It's very observational. Like, and when you put the science on it, you can change it really quickly and you can watch people change. And I think for me, when you go through our process, you're doing them simultaneously. And I think that's why when people get out of our sessions, some people feel like they got hit by a Mack truck. They're just like, yo, what happened? Some people are like, yo, I just felt like I went on like a mushroom trip. And I'm like, yeah, it's a lot of untangling, and it's very, because it is psychedelic in its own right. But obviously we make sure we have protocols so they take care of themselves, so everything consolidates properly, because God's got you, your nervous system, you're fine. You just got to make sure that you're in a solid environment so things don't, re-trigger, the work. But that's the beautiful part about the synaptic pruning, is that just stop paying attention to shit that you don't want to pay attention to. And the only reason why you keep paying attention to shit that you're paying attention to is because you have a neural network for it that is so strong, because repetition drive the neural pathway in deeper to the brain. And the more you feel an association to that neural pathway repetitiously, it widens the groove. So it's like almost like you're creating roads in your head, right, in your brain. So it's like, obviously, as you prune, and then obviously you add into the context that you want to add into your world, everything starts to change. And that's what I love. I firmly love about life more than anything, outside of like my faith and like the small little clan of dope people that I have, is just like it's constantly shifting and changing, and you get to be observant of it. And the more you observe of the things that are beneficial for you, the better you can help people. So, and this is where a lot of people get stuck in that notion, is because even the neurons, when they have to fire together, they need that cell membrane potential to keep that charge. Because if it doesn't keep that charge, it's not going to keep that stickiness to it, that malleability when you kind of do inner work, or you actually go through meditation, visualization, stuff like that. So it's really imperative to know the voltage behind what you're doing too, so you have something complementary.
That's what I was thinking about. Like I know Spanish sometimes, but the longer I go without using it, the harder it is for me to get it back. But then once I'm around people, like if I'm the foreman on a job and I have, some people who only speak Spanish, then it forces it back. And then the more I start using it, the more it starts firing, and I can start to recall words more quickly. I'm able to.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how that, like, why that works like that?
That's perfect, because you're also like, so if you look at synaptic pruning almost like neural atrophy, right? Like if you don't use it, you lose it. It's kind of the same concept. One of the biggest challenge I like to put through myself is through the winter, I kind of am just way more leisure than I am intense, right? Just because, one, it's cold. There's really not much to do unless you're like an extreme sport athlete, which I'm not. And you got the holiday season, right? There's fucking cookies, man. Like, I'm going to eat some cookies, right? So I give myself a lot of leniency and grace, and I indulge because I know where I'm at. I know what seasonality I am. But now, as we start etching closer to the beginning of spring, I'm starting to get in my protocols to be more productive, plant more seeds, and actually start to build out more business and build out, more commerce. But the big thing too is when you do something continuously. This is what's fascinating about the brain that we're finding in research. It's not just what you repeatedly do, it's what you're repeatedly paying attention to. So if we teach things like pocket perceptual frames. I don't have one on me. I don't know exactly where it is, but it's like a little laminate card that shows you what you wrote down, what you want, and also how to appropriate the emotion exactly to what you want. And you just keep it in your pocket, and it says that you don't even have to go through a full feeling process. As long as you're just looking at that card and your brain keeps seeing exactly what you put down, over time, the law of acquisition says those neural networks have to develop. But the only problem is people the delay of gratification is not a very popular thing here. So when you just use it, even in its slightest, that's how powerful it is. But when you have familiarity, you still have the networks. They're just dimmed down. It's kind of like the lights go down if you're like, oh, I didn't work on some Spanish as much. But then when you keep working on that Spanish, those networks, they still had an appropriated pocket of neural networks. Now you're starting to add in the glial tissue and all the big things that kind of really make it form. So it's really like, for me, it's the same reason. Get on a bike, I could ride a bike easy. I haven't rode a bike in probably like 2 years.
Mhm.
right? It's because you've done it so many times. There is that motor center, specifically in your cerebellum, that says, hey, I know how to ride this bike, right? So it's not like you're going to completely lose it forever unless you lost your life, right?
Right. Right.
That's the difference. So it's really about appropriating what your action values and your character values are, so you really know what networks you want to play. And for me,
Mhm.
those are the only two things that we focus on in our 5-point process, because if you align with that, you're more energy efficient. Your brain is more prone for conservation, so it doesn't want to spend a ton of energy. So it's really about what you're focusing on, even in the minutia, right? That's why I say even a quick glance at your phone. I'm like, your brain is constantly being like, I didn't look at it. I didn't even scroll, but I looked at it. I'll keep looking at it, right? So it's wild how we propensate our own behavior. So this is a mindful game. It's an observational game, and that's what I love about by what is the there we go. Sorry, brain fart there for a second. Too many cookies, right? Biological organization,
Mhm.
specifically of your observation. There's just tiers to this, and the more you actually appropriate your observation, the more things start to stick for you.
You started saying about the instant gratification self, because it's much harder to look to your future self and want because we don't have a relationship with our future self. We don't
Yeah.
know it. And I
We
found
can though.
yeah,
We definitely can. Yeah.
but we can be
Absolutely.
good. I was learning today because I was going over quantum mechanics and stuff today, and I
Wow.
was like, ooh,
God bless your soul on that one.
yeah,
That's tough shit, dude. It's
but
tough shit.
and how past energy can carry through into future energy, through entanglement and
Yeah.
just I don't know. My mind was pretty blown by all of it, and
Mhm.
just the way that how entanglement works. I'm not sure I want to get into that.
No, it's fun. Well, I love this perfect time, man, because this is
Okay.
just obviously a beautiful learning experience. When I went into quantum tunneling, quantum mechanics, we have like a
Mhm.
small segment on that in our advanced portion of Conscious College, which is our base, like passive curriculum throughout our process within our student startup offer. But that notion of like how much energy is moving, and then your brain kind of going to exhaustion, your cell membrane, that voltage is going down, so it actually can reconsolidate, so you can garnish and build up more energy to go back and learn, because you're like, holy fuck, I'm fascinated by this is an intrinsic motivator called curiosity. I want to learn more. But the hard part is this is that instant gratification and delayed gratification polarization. That was a fucking sentence. But that delayed, people when they see it, they're like, whoa, this is way too out there and it's too hard to understand. I'll just stop. And I was like, no, that's how your brain gets stronger. Is go after the deep challenge. I just get chills talking about it. I was like, do hard shit, especially intellectually, because your mental chemistry is going to start to look out for this hard stuff now starts to become simple and easy,
Mhm.
right? So challenging yourself, that's the best part, because the cells now start to modulate how much electricity needs to be used, and then it slowly conserves so you can reconsolidate and then get back on the horse. And that's what we call action potential in neuroscience. So you get to learn more. So you're actually, by exhausting yourself going into those deep pockets, it's not that you're just getting smarter, you're actually getting stronger.
Right. Now, the way that this was also interesting to me in that, like, r- like writing affirmations is not necessarily a good way for your brain in order for you to create change within the
Hmm.
deepest levels of your brain because it doesn't understand language, which I know that we talked, but um, that that's where a visualization board comes in best. Would
Yeah.
you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so our process for our conscious integration is called a perceptual frame. So the holographic depiction, because everything we see is 3D, right? In that notion, like every component to our density, like is a 3D depiction. So we have to give it something to look at. And this is now called holonomic brain theory. So we learn obviously by repetition. That was the Hebbian learning that I talked about. Neurons fire together, wire together. Holonomic brain theory is how we associate to the world, right? Like I know where my bathroom is because there's a visual of it, right? I know that there's a light in front of me because I can see it visually, right? There's a spatial recognition and association. So when you give yourself a perceptual frame, right, or say even a visual, you're looking at the depictions and now you're associating through that depiction, that association, a feeling. And that is the language of the nervous system, right? Thoughts are the language of the brain, feeling is the language of the body. And this is the reason why they call feeling the secret. And this is getting into like Neville Goddard's work, is that the more you think and feel in direct proportion, that is essentially the recipe of New Age, manifestation, right? Or manifestation in general. But it's not just that equation. There's other variables to that, but that's the premise of it. As you think and how you feel is how you act, not necessarily, right? But how you think and how you feel directly is the proportionate of how your brain starts to literally create that image for that neural network.
Yeah, it's just wild to get into it in the way that our body relates to itself.
Yeah.
And then also learning that really you don't need that much discipline. You just need a little bit to get yourself into performing habits. Habits and
Yeah.
repetition really speak to that part of the brain because then it changes. Do I have the correct understanding of that?
Absolutely. I mean, you have major drivers, and we're also finding in massive research that the anticipation of doing an action actually draws in the biochemical pathways, actually more than doing the action itself.
Mhm.
So we actually create this game for ourselves, right? Where you're like, hey, I'm actually more excited, right? My signals are firing, my neurons are firing just thinking about the process. That's what makes me most fascinated about anything. I'm like, man, I actually get fascinated more about going to an event than actually being at the event. Because
Mhm.
I love being in the mix with people, very extroverted, very high I kind of personality. But I get excited about going to something, right? Like I'm really looking forward to this. So like when you're associating that specifically to your world, the best thing that I can go off of what you said, man, is like just create the mental picture first, right? And this is a whole case in point about visualization. Even going back to your point and kind of adding to that, this is where you can have a relationship with your future self. Like, what are those things that you want to adopt in your body? Because the best part about attributes and emotional states, they're neuropeptides,
Mhm.
right? And then if you have the nucleus accumbens associated to those emotional states, that's just going to squirt out dopamine to just give you even more driving force to want to do that. That's why I tell people, I was like, the greatest emotional state is not even really an emotional state. It's just a state. It's called the Christmas morning effect. Because that's a cascade of shit. When we were younger and you were getting ready and you were excited to wake up Christmas morning, go, do all the things, have the waffles, throw in your jammies, whatever it is, pull out the presents, go crazy, like be a kid, right? If you can imprint that into your brain, doing that every single morning, extremely hard to do, no doubt. But that state of being has this cascade of so many different chemicals that are just neurochemistry, just so beneficial for your body. And when people can start to understand through molecules of emotion, Candace Pert's work, like your emotions are proteins. They're
Mhm.
the scaffolding and the building blocks of your body. So which ones do you want to choose to have?
I quit watching news and I limit myself to about 30 minutes a morning of social media. I just quit. And you know what? I feel so much better because I'm not consuming junk food for my brain.
There it is.
It's just amazing
There it
how it
is.
works. So I'm like, my
Yeah.
God, man, I feel like the weight of the world is on me. Why do I feel this way?
Yeah. Well, we're not we're
It's
not we're
foolish.
not designed to have access like that fucking 24/7. Like it's probably, I think, close to the modern slow gauge genocide, of our species, because we're just not appropriated for that.
Yeah.
We're just not. It's like we would wish to be in small communities and have all these things that we used to,
Mhm.
even not too long ago either. But now it's like our community is our cell phone and like our computer and our television, and it's gotten way worse since obviously the pandemic aspects.
Yeah.
But when you start to see really what you want, right? How you want to feel, Now it's not about addition, it's about subtraction. What do I take away from this? And we have a protocol in this called the light diet. What kind of light are you bringing in? And all that blue light, all that stuff, it just literally fries the circuitry of your cellular membrane. It actually makes it more stiff, right? And what's weird, like alcohol makes it more loose where it can allow other things in. When you
Yeah.
have like a lot of blue light, it makes it so hard for other things to get in. And you need sodium and potassium to move fluently for you to even have electricity to move from your cells to cell communication. So I love it, man. Like having those parameters are essential for not only just your health, but also just literally how you want to enjoy life. Like really how you want to feel in your own vessel that is ultimately a rental. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I was starting to learn how to sit with myself in quietness.
Dope,
And
brother.
yeah, it's kind of weird because it feels like everything's so loud in your head when
Mhm.
you're trying to sit there, but um think maybe that's what quietness and boredom is meant for us to figure out the things that we've been dealing with.
Yeah. And I love what you're saying there because the propensities is the neural networks, right? Because the feelings that we have associated to those visuals, right? They make us want to get up, right? And make us want to move and make us want to go do things because it's not that we're trying to avoid things. We're just programmed to be like, what is my cup of coffee?
Yeah,
Well, if I don't feel quote unquote energized before I do anything, let's go get a cup of coffee before I do anything.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like we're like we see the association outside of ourselves and then we're clicked to it, right? You know, you have your bills, your car, right? You have all of the people in your family. Probably if you have pets, my goodness. If you have an ex, right? You have the in-laws. You got all these neural networks that are vying for your attention as soon as you wake up, right? So that's why I tell people that's your sacred time. We call it conscious integration, where you get to sit down with spirit, right? However you slice that, intelligence, God, creator, right? And you get to paint that picture with that perceptual frame. And I've always said this, and I hope people like really take this seriously when they hear this. Like, have you ever noticed, like, just use that notion of Father God, right?
mhm,
God the Father. Have you ever noticed how excited parents get when their child wants to come see them?
absolutely.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, and imagine God in that same analogy being like, oh my gosh, my son, my daughter wants to come see me before everyone else. I get chills, bro. I get chills because I'm like, that's how I see meditation. It's like, yo, set yourself up with the divine, with the intelligence that runs the show, and then go serve people. Like, you don't have to suffer for that notion. We alluded to that on the first call. I just call the suffering, right, in any notion, just service to people. It's like we're not really meant to be here just for ourselves. We're here to charge ourselves. That's our job. But we're here to help and have a helping hand, be a part of community. And it's very hard to do that, like when we were alluding to just being on our phone all the fucking time, dude. It's just like, what are we doing? You know?
And it's it's wild to me that we've taken these phones and social media and uh, take them for interaction with other people or like our tribe, but it's just not the same. It is not
Yeah.
nearly the same connection.
Yeah. And it's wild too. My general experience, I'm sure you could probably resonate to this to a general degree, is that when you have like what you have and you call it abundance, you usually just want to give it.
Mhm,
Like you usually want to just give it. And it's like I'm being taught, in my own practice and my own components of building, emotional boundaries. It's like I'm not here to negate people from where they're at, but I also firmly understand that if I have the teaching within myself, I'll give as much as I can within the capacity that I have. But we genuinely just want to give. We do as people. And then obviously, if there's no reciprocity, we go against nature because that's a law, it's a fundamental law. Then things start to disintegrate, right? And
yeah.
there, that neural networks, there's that synaptic pruning. There's this giant intersection and interwovenness of neuroscience and just the observational components of the nature and just the universe as a whole. And it's really fun if you know how to play the game. Like if you have your values and really aligned in direct proportion, like you can really have an amazing time, an amazing experience, with quote unquote your abundance.
there was a couple things I had written down because I wanted to talk to you about it when I was dealing with, uh, oh, microtubules. Where
Yeah, bro. Oh my gosh.
are
Here we go. Let's go.
and, it was related that the easiest way to get your mind open and to receive things is generally through psychedelics. I remember you, saying that you microdose daily?
Yeah. So I'm on a cycle. It's usually a 5 or 6 day cycle.
Mhm,
So I'll take a small amount, specifically of a strand that's just a little bit higher in the psilocybin
mhm,
content. So it's a little bit low dose. But yeah, it's with a stack that I've created for mitochondrial cycling. And then you obviously give yourself a break, so your brain can breathe, because when your brain's, going that fast and moving at that capacity, you obviously want it to be restful. But yeah, I've had macro dose experiences too, and you get to meet different variations of yourself throughout your timelines, that you get to consolidate too and really get to make amends with. And I think not only just a powerful tool, but if it's appropriated with respect, you can bring a lot of sacredness to that. But yeah, absolutely.
'cause that's what, I know every time I have do psychedelics, which I've done, a number of various ones, but, you always end up to me, I've always ended up with the same feeling that everything is connected and that it's mostly love.
Yeah. Well, dude, think of this. I love what you're saying in this process too, because there's two principal aspects of time in physics, one being eternalism, all that is, and then there's presentism, right now, right? Like what's in the moment, right? And what's fascinating about through the research that I found is that the predominant understanding, the most prolific understanding and widely accepted viewpoint is eternalism, right? So what happens with something like that when it comes down to psychedelics and the love that kind of opens up from the generation of the heart, that is what is the precursor to lowering entropy, and entropy is just chaos in thermodynamics. So all this life is just chaotic until you have love and coherence, and then that centralized from your focus and what you add to that elevated state. For me, I always just find wholeness. Yeah, there's a lot of love in there too. That's why I like to call it the Christmas morning effect. If
Mhm.
you can garnish that, you got love, wholeness, bliss, peace. You're just excited, and that is what I firmly believe is the answer. Outside of your internal circuitry is your answer, but the outward output is the elevated emotion, and that's what I think the worldly answer is.
So, I was trying to understand, superposition and how, a state can exist in or a cell can exist in multiple states at one time.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that?
That's in that concept of superposition within the cellular structure is kind of like polarization,
Mhm.
right? Where it's like you can have something within the cell and outside the cell, an internal and external environment. But superposition, from my understanding, is more so one thing can be in two places at once, right? So
So
from the cell component, like that does make sense because we have a gang of cells. One can be in that mirrored image specifically of the communication to, a liver cell into the neuron cell, right? So the fascinating part that I love about quantum physics is like it's so out there and it's so fun because it gives you that such rich feeling of novelty, which is needed to obviously enrich the brain. But then I always have to divert, how much can I actually apply it,
Mm,
right?
okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, is making sure, especially just from my um my movements right through life, is like, can the theory have a practice so there is that solution? Because for me, when I think about superposition, it's just like, how much can I apply it, for the solutions that I'm trying to serve. So, but nonetheless, beyond fascinating, man. I can talk quantum physics like all day. Yeah.
Yeah, oh my god, I was learning a lot today in preparation because I wanted to make sure I, got everything. And then, uh, yeah, but I'm still mulling that over yet.
Dude, I bet. Yeah. I mean, literally, like it's very rare to get complimentary like tips of the cap from people, for people who have seen me start that at such a young age, because I took my first client when I was 23, and I started to dive in this in my mid 20s, and I just thought it was a part of life. Like I wasn't this, oh great, I'm different than anybody or better than anybody. I was like, this is just intriguing.
Mhm.
Like, and then when you look at actually the flow science of how to like set up your mental anatomy and your mental chemistry, it is an intrinsic motivator. Some people have higher curiosities than other people. And most of the people that have higher curiosities, they tend to just they'd be talking about some wild shit. Like and it's just fun, man. This is what's great about conversation and connection.
Yeah, yeah. I know I've been enjoying these little journeys. Um,
I bet. I
they
bet.
yeah, they just open you up to a lot, and even
Hmm.
the human experience. And then you
Yeah.
realize that one thing I've been learning is to not put people on a hierarchy, not to think of myself as better than them or that they're better than me, just that we're all the same.
Yeah.
And to look at it in that way, I think that's been a real big takeaway for me, um, with these types of things. And
Yeah,
then,
man.
yeah, I mean, we've had 2 conversations now, and then we've, you know, been talking here for a while. And, after that, what do you think that hasn't been asked yet, and what should be asked?
I mean, you did allude to the notion of where to start. I mean, obviously, when it comes down to one of my biggest things that I've kind of found just in my journey and my experience is making sure that people are plugged in properly. So I think the only thing is like how people can get a taste of just this work, and we hold either one or two open houses specifically throughout the month. So I think if people wanted to take this journey, of what we do here, I think that's a great place of starting point for them. But the other thing too is just being like, really ask yourself, not you personally, obviously, just the people that are listening to this, like ask themselves like how much fun can you have? Like how much fun can you have? Like can you start the day with that? Right. Aside of all the stuff that may be happening, these are all things, like I said, these are neural networks. How much fun can you have? And the more fun you have, the more playful you are, the more you unlearn and the faster you learn too. So it's like I always just go back to simple ingredients is like, get into a playful state. I know it's super, super hard with the densities in the world and shit like that, but you remember you're an inside out first. So be that playful state and then don't be ashamed for it. So, yeah. And if obviously people come into our facilitation, we teach that vividly, right? I do my best to keep myself at a high elevated state on a consistent basis, regardless of what's happening in my life, because, everybody is going to get some form of connection, healing, potential specifically when they're coming into that place. So that's the only thing that I think hasn't been asked is how do you play? And it's just like for people who are really getting into inner work, really kind of starting off their journey essentially, or have been in the midst of the journey. Maybe this is a reminder, but really go inward. Just hand over the heart and be like, hey, how would you animate through me? Right? Interface with your nervous system and just ask that spirit that is just illuminating your life, how would you express yourself?
Mhm.
And then just start doing that and just be prepared to have it feel fucking weird because you probably have never done it before. So I think people knowing how to play, obviously super subjective question, but I think that's a great tactical thing people can start doing to just better their life regardless of what's happening.
Well, I know Dr. Jordan Peterson agrees with you.
Nice.
He he definitely goes into about playfulness, and
Dude, it's so beautiful, man. I mean, like, dude, if we just saw a bunch of people just out here loving people, not in like a weird ass hippie way, but like just like, just a constructive, respectful way where it's not like, hey, I'm trying to identify counterculture, but just being animated, being unapologetic, but also doing no harm, but taking no shit from people. That's the code. So I firmly believe if you start off with those questions, like how can I play? How can I play more? To start off your day, and before you get into your visualizations, your mental setup for the day, I think we could see a profound change, in the coherence of the world.
And does this playfulness put you in, because there's this big thing about frequency, and
Yeah.
does that put you on that frequency to see better things or have better outcomes?
I honestly believe just from the synaptic components, just because it does take on average 400 repetitions just to create a synapse from how much you're doing a task. And when you're in a playful state, that drops to 10 to 20 repetitions, which is wildly fucking efficient. I think, yeah, dude, like that discrepancy is crazy. So now when you understand that type of stuff, like I think, yeah, for the outcomes of your life, especially if you're focusing on the good shit, right? If you're focusing on the wholesome shit, if you're focusing on the liberating things, um, yeah, man, I think the playful state is a resonating factor, not only just of acceptance, but it's also properly reasoning with yourself. And usually, when people are playful, I guarantee you're loving your experience. No question. I wouldn't doubt it. I'm like, if you're playful and out there animated, I wouldn't say that you're bitter. Wouldn't say that you're miserable. Wouldn't say that your life is in a shitty spot. But also, learning how to play and appropriating the electricity to do that. I think those are important questions to understand. But I do highly agree that they have very corroborated, sets of experience when you're just having fun.
Yeah. And who doesn't like to have fun?
There's a lot of people that have come into my facilitation that don't know how to, and I was like, "Don't worry, I will crack that shell. Don't worry," because I was like, at the end of the day, yes, there can be grief, there can be stuff happening, people may die, people may get disease, but I'm like, at the end of the day, let's be real. Like, let's be real. Like, this is a forever eternal experience. Like, we just get to go on to the next echelon, and we get to live out through our timeline here. So it's just like, do your best to enjoy it all. It's like one of my principles. Enjoy all of it. Like when my mom went into the hospital, and then my dad right behind him, like within 2 days, I was like, how do I enjoy this process? Because that's some heavy shit. Like, I was like, how can I do that? That was my question. I always revert back to it. Hand over the heart, because this is going to tell me the truth, right? This is 1,000 times more of an amplitude than this. This is first impression, right? How can I have fun? And it's really, really simple. I mean, especially as you get it practice, you know how to make it happen. So yeah, just enjoy it. Yeah.
I know that's what you sent over the free is it that's on Facebook, right? The engagements that you do for free?
Yeah, so the open house, like if people like this is what I always tell people on the podcast or anything that we do on media, like reach out to me specifically so I can get you plugged in, because people get a little misguided with all the information out there. It's always best to hear it from source. I'm just that person. Like if you were the origin or the creator or whatever, like just reach out to me. But yeah, our open houses go through our sequence, like all of the theory, the practice, the reason behind why it's important. And then we just do a quick drop in. And we're going to do one before we close out. So when people come through that process, they can just get a taste of what clearings are, how to go through one, how deep each one goes through each level of awareness. And then that way they can get a taste of like how to move through this stuff. Because it's not traditional mental visualization and meditations. We kind of got our own little like setup of like holographic depictions and stuff like that. So when people come into the open house, they can get a little taste of that too.
Nice. So what are we about to give them a little taste?
Let's do it. You ready?
All right, baby.
All right, man. So all I need you to do is this is what I tell people, to integrity through the spine. So just have a nice solid base. I always can tell when people will have a solid base and a solid sturdiness, their neurology is a little bit more active. So cerebral spinal fluid can move a little bit more efficiently. You're not hunched over, done like that. So there's a little bit more proliferation going into your brain space. But all you got to do, man, is just keep your head literally as still as possible. And then all you have to do is just look up through the roof of your head without moving your face. So look up as high as you can, and then literally slowly close your eyes. And then just kind of settle into your body real quick. And then I'm going to have you dominant hand right over that heart space. If you feel called to support it with your second hand, you can do that too, but you don't have to. And you're going to pay attention, first impression, whatever color and or colors come into mind. I'm just going to have you breathe that into that heart space, almost kind of like you're cracking through any defenses, any barriers, like any walls, anything getting in the way of you authentically connecting to that space. And 4 represents foundation, so you're just giving a nice little house setup right there in that heart space. And on that 4th breath, as you kind of pour in, allow that color and or colors to just kind of consume your body with your conscious awareness, and allow that to fill out the entirety of the room in that color. And each color has a psychological association to it. Which color or colors do you have? Orange? Perfect. So orange is the color of happiness, emotional balance. And also what's really fun, the color of orange represents your warmth, really kind of opening up to that warmer side of yourself. And take your time here. But once your entire body and the entirety of the room, the circumference, the spatial awareness around you within your proprioception, your proprioceptive nervous system, which tells you where you are in space, is filled with that orange, you go ahead and let me know, okay? And take your time on this process. You hear me say this a lot. When I work with people, don't rush this. Don't force this. Rushing is a disease. Forcing is a myth. So take your time, really encapsulate into that warmth. Got it? Perfect. Now start to think of one thing that you really want. All right, what's one thing that what's kind of been pulling at your gills a little bit, something that you've really been looking forward to? Maybe you're a future purchase. Maybe you're about to get something for the kids. Maybe you're about to get something for the lady. Who knows? What do you think it is? Obviously, if it's a secret for them, don't tell them out loud. Right?
um,
Okay, perfect. So, yeah, you don't even have to say what it is. This is what I love about this. You don't even have to tell anybody what it is because it's in your mind. Now, have that visual, create a holographic depiction of what that gift is, and just have it kind of suspend in space right in front of you. So get like a 3D image, kind of what that gift is. Got it? Beautiful. So now, in that notion, specifically of that depiction, as you give that to your daughter, what are you feeling currently?
love,
Beautiful. Anything else?
warmth,
Perfect. Let it all out, my man. Whatever comes to mind. This is that full expression of cracking through.
happy.
Beautiful. And this is that connectance to that transcendence, that wholesome state. You stay with that feeling in that depiction literally until you feel one, at home, and whole with that depiction. And once you do, all you got to do is just go out and grab it, almost like you're giving it a hug, and just bring it towards you and just let it kind of dissolve into your being.
I can smell Texas Roadhouse.
There you I love it, man. That's so good. Take all the time, man. This is your space to create.
Oh, what do I do with it?
Now, yeah, you just go out and grab it. Did you already go out and grab it physically with your hands? Oh, you just did it in your mind?
Yeah.
Yeah, you get your hand when you get your body involved. There's this more of a profound effect. So you just go out and grab that, bring it in, almost like, and just give that a hug, and just let it slowly dissolve into you to become one with you. And take your time here, man. Once that is fully embodied in your being, you can slowly open your eyes when you feel called, come back to a newly and freshly minted 3D reality. Take your time, let things kind of come back to senses. And usually I forgot to do this. Usually I gauge if there's a stress scale or an agitation scale.
Mhm.
But if you can compare before you did this, right, to
Right.
like 0 out of 10, like where you were at, maybe on a stress scale, where would you say that you were at?
Probably about a 5,
Where are you at now?
like a 1.
See,
Yeah.
that's it. So that is just an example of using our Power 5 to go through a clearing. I didn't even do a clearing with you. I just added to you,
Mhm.
right? When we go through a clearing, we do the pruning and then we add to, we do the polarity. But obviously, just for the sake and respect of your audience and your time, we just did an additional thing. So when we set up the perceptual frames, we have audio clips for people so they can go in, and it's just a mental playground, bro. So bringing more of that in is reaffirming the networks that are there, because we know that you love your daughter,
Mhm.
no question,
Yeah.
right? So now you're just adding to that. Now imagine, I'm getting chills when you give that present to your daughter, how amplified more that's going to be. And now you're going to drive that. It's called that upstream driver. You're going to be more and more excited to give that to your daughter just because of this practice.
That's wild. I'm actually gonna try that more
Bro, it's
often.
fun.
That was wild because 'cause I'm not very good at visualization, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm just not.
And a lot of people are polarized. Some people are really good at visualization, some people are really good at feeling,
Mhm.
and then some vice versa. Some people have a hard time getting visuals, but some people are deep feelers.
Yeah, I'm more of a
Right.
feeler.
Same here. Same here. My visuals are awesome, but I'm more of a feeler, and that's the reason why, especially like that notion, feeling is the secret. The deeper you are with feelings, right? You obviously just want to appropriate yourself to the most beneficial things, because if you feel magnitude on the negativity, you're going to attract more of that stuff too. So, yeah, man, it's really just about a game of mastering yourself and just adding in these simple techniques. And that was no more than 8 minutes.
Yeah,
Really simple stuff.
and you know what's interesting is I had no idea what that color was supposed to mean. None.
See,
That's
and
exactly
this is where,
how I felt.
dude, oh man, I love these. These are my favorite moments about being a teacher and a neuroscience. As a neuroscientist, that's called first impression language. This was actually developed by neuroscientists in the early 90s at Princeton, where within a seventh to a tenth of a second, your being knows that answer before your cognitive functions go online. This is the reason why it's so hard for people to maneuver through life, is because they're trying to go by their negativity bias rather than their heart, and their heart speaks first.
Yeah,
Your body speaks first. It doesn't know how to fundamentally lie to you, but this thing fucking does it all the time.
yeah.
All the time. That's the conundrum of the human existence, my man.
Oh, good grief. I am definitely gonna be doing some of your work. I am.
Dude, yeah. And honestly, the best part about just the collective component, especially going through my graduate training and just flow and just really kind of becoming a master of just how those sequences are, the expression of doing this in a group setting actually is one of, on record, the most tantalizing experience for the body, for the nervous system, is doing this all in a
Is it because of the energy that you're building as a group?
coherence field. Dude, it's so much fun, bro. We have such a blast. And like, I literally have, I would say, close to 13, different calls a week with 3 different facilitators. Like,
Mm.
it's just a
Wow.
blast inside our school. Like, it's so much fun.
Kyle, just to remind everybody or anyone who hasn't
Yeah.
heard about you yet, where can they go to find you, Kyle?
Yeah, so just reach out to me. I'm super, super open in the DMs and on Facebook Messenger now that I'm kind of back in the seat after recovering from a brain injury for 2 years. So I'm really back in the seat, feel more polished and better than I ever have. If you want more playful information, go to @HighVibeHolonomics via Instagram. We just have, some fun stuff up there about neuroscience and just what we do. But then also, if you're interested in just getting dropped into our informational group, just, come hang out with us. And then I'll get you the details, show the open house. We go through the whole spread, kind of give you the menu of options that you can come. And if you're interested in working with us, and yeah, that's that.
We're also going to put your open houses up in the bio.
Cool.
It's at the
I love that,
bottom of
man.
the description. I fucking forget. Katie knows.
It's all good. Your brain's still coming back online a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, thank you
I
so
love
much,
it.
Kyle. Like, I really appreciate
Yeah,
you. And I think what you're doing is actually very important. So
yeah.
I'm sure all
And
the
the fun
audience
part,
appreciates you too.
yeah, the fun part, and I just want to shed my appreciation because, like I said in the previous a couple episodes, just being reached out to, like, for me, I know that this isn't part of my journey right now, but teaching this and having a white paper documented on it for flow for post traumatic growth for people who have gone through PTSD, people who are going through addiction recovery. I know me working with more of those when I get into my 40s is going to be part of my calling. So, kind of starting the steps like 5 years prior is going to be huge to kind of give this more light. And, just having you guys shed light on that by inviting me, I just appreciate it. It's super cool.
Thank you. Hey, thanks,
Likewise,
audience.
dude.
Peace out.
Of course, dude.
My team and I know how valuable your time is. So we wanted to thank you for making Across the Table part of your day. By liking, sharing, and subscribing, you help keep us inspired and motivated to continue creating content for all of our listeners. If you have ideas for the show or would like to be a guest, please contact me via email at james@acrossthetablepodcast.com. That's james@acrossthetablepodcast.com. Thank you.
Pull up a chair, set the world aside. Let's find the truth, we keep trying.